Hello. Johnston Boyd History 711. We're going to cover the problem of human scale. So in philosophy, when they're talking about human scale, I'm going to cover what Aristotle thought, what Thomas Hobbes thought, and David Hume. So with Aristotle, in Greece, they started the Greek city-states before they had a republic and before Greece actually became a country. So Aristotle believed that the size and scale of what you needed in order to govern properly was something that you could walk through the polity within a day. He believed that you needed it small enough to where you can communicate with the individual that is in government, and the individual in government understood the people. So he believed the smaller the better. Thomas Hobbes, on the other hand, he believed in individuals that you could almost develop into a one-world government. He believed that people almost could just, the government was the central entity, and people could just evolve into how the government wanted it, if the government could kind of keep them in their place per se. It seems like nowadays a lot of countries have the Thomas Hobbes approach. David Hume, on the other hand, he kind of saw both, for instance. So when he looked at it, he completely understood where Aristotle was coming from. He saw it and he was like, that makes, that's common sense to see the smaller the better, to where the individuals within the government would do what's right for the people. If it's small enough to where you understand the people, you understand their needs. Whereas he also knew that the bigger it is, the harder it is to understand the need for the basic citizen. He also knew that he was against large cities. He thought large cities would create different vices, and it was a downfall on society, having large large cities. So the downside with the problem of the human scale is, for instance, I see exactly where it's at in nowadays, to where, you have the federal government that is in charge of the country, but then you have the governors, you have the local politicians. But the issue is that if you have a federal government that is in control of everything, so what they want in California is different than what they want in Iowa or what they want in Florida. So if you have a blanket statement for exactly what everyone in the country needs and wants, which is the Hobbesian approach, and then bringing it down to the state and local, that's more of the Aristotelian approach. So where if you see it, that's why there's a lot of rife within society right now. So in Texas, they have the border issue. They're like, okay, we will enforce what we want on the border. This is our sovereign area. Our people want this. They want the border to be secured. Whereas the federal government was trying to undermine that, make the border open. And for whatever reason, there is a disconnect nowadays with the federal government and the average citizen. So for instance, I live in Seattle, Washington now, but I grew up on a farm in Iowa. So what I noticed is that when I was in the Midwest, growing up in a small town on a farm, it seemed like common sense was very common. But when I moved to a large city, it seemed like common sense was no longer so common. And what I noticed is that the more advanced a society gets, the larger the area, the more they worry about things that the average person doesn't worry about. So I remember growing up on a farm, we just wanted to worry about the basic necessities. We didn't have time to worry about all these social injustice things. Whereas coming to Seattle, it was a different world to me. I'm like, man, you guys must have too much time on your hands to worry about all these other issues. So that's kind of my thing, is that the human scale, it's a disconnect with the average citizen. I believe that I am pro having smaller societies, probably a breaking down of the government to be smaller rather than a larger Hobbesian society. I feel like the negative of having a large Hobbesian type society will eventually evolve into tyranny, because the more people you have, the more government intervention it seems like it needs. Whereas the average citizen just wants kind of a approach like what John Locke would have. It's like, hey, I just want to focus on the natural laws. I just want my normal God-given rights, and government stay out of it. So that's the thing. The bigger you get, the more problems that you create, because people are so different from different cultures, bringing them all together. So that's kind of my approach with it. Thank you.